So now we want to draw the sample space for flipping 3 coins. Okay, so think about it this way. I only have 1 coin up here. I get some change on my card. Sorry about that. But I have 1 coin. All right, we're going to flip it. We're going to imagine I have 3 different coins. Okay?
How about you just ask?
No, it's all right. Thank you, Nat. Okay. All right. So let's say I have 3 separate coins. I have a penny, I have another penny, and I have a third penny. Okay? And I'm going to flip these coins and keep track of what I get. Heads, tails, or I guess heads or tails is the only thing. Okay. So how many possible outcomes are there for me to flip this coin 3 times? On one flip, there's 2 outcomes, right? On the second flip, there's 2 more outcomes, right? So that means that each outcome, there's 2 more possibilities. Right?
Which one was the outcome?
Okay. Well, heads or tails?
No, I mean the number.
The possible outcomes on the bottom. Okay? And then my third flip, there's 2 more possibilities, right? So how do I figure this out?
You don't.
Do I do 2 times 3 because there's 3 flips?
Yeah.
Or 2 times 2 times 2? The second one? Okay. Remember the first one, when we talked about the rolling 2 dice, we did 6 times 6 because each die had 6 outcomes. Right? We didn't do 6 times 2, we did 6 times 6. So what do you think we need to do here?
2 times 2 times 2, which is 8.
Okay, good. We got to do 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. Alright, so flipping 3 coins will give me 8 total outcomes because each coin has 2 probabilities. So 2 times 2 times 2. Alright, and I'll prove it to you. The way we can draw the sample space for this is something that's called like a tree diagram or a flow chart. It all depends on what you want to call it. But my first coin. Okay, I'm going to flip my first coin. What are my 2 outcomes?
Heads or tails.
Heads or tails? Those are my 2 outcomes, right? First coin is heads or tails. So I flip my first coin, I get heads, right? Second outcome. Well, how many possible outcomes come from this heads or tails? When I get to my second coin, how many possible outcomes are there?
2.
2, right? So I get heads on the first one. My second flip, I could get heads or tails, right? But if I got tails on my first one, my second flip, I could still get heads or tails. Does that make sense? So now I have 4 possible outcomes because there's 4 paths. 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that make sense? Okay. So our third coin. I flipped heads on the first, heads on the second. What could I get on the third? Heads or tails. Right? Heads on the first, tails on the second. What can I get on the third? Heads or tails. Okay, we can keep going with this. And what we've created is kind of a flow chart, or as someone said, like a family tree last hour, or a family tree of our possible outcomes. Right? Does that make sense? So how many paths are there?
A lot. 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 outcomes, right? Right? And the reason why there's 8 was because there was 2 choices here, 2 choices here, 2 choices here, and 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. What'd you say? Won't be 2 squared, it'd be 2 cubed. There's also 2 cubed because we're doing it 3 times. Same thing, right? Does that make sense, guys? So this is our sample space. But this might be tough to read. So we can actually write out all our outcomes. So if I go across the top path, what do I get? How many heads? 3. So 3 H's. Okay? Next path down. Heads, heads, tails, right? Then we have, oh, thank you. Heads, tails, heads. Then heads, tails, tails, right? Then tails, heads, heads. Tails, heads, tails. Tails, tails, heads. tails, tails, tails. Make sure I have them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good, I got them all. Okay. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Now there's a list of probabilities over here on the left side. Okay, you also have some on your paper. Right? I want you to write down the probabilities of each of these events. So the probability of flipping 3 heads. Right? The probability of 3 tails. The probability of your first flip being heads. The probability of your second flip being tails. The probability of your first 2 flips being tails. Does this make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Okay? So I want you to try to figure those out. You can use the diagram or the outcomes. Right? The outcomes are listed in order. The first letter is the first flip. Second letter is the second flip. Third letter is the third flip. David, you said no. What do you mean? Where's the long one said no? Who said no when I asked this? Yep. Got a light in this thing. Sarah, take me back. Why'd you write down what I wrote down? Okay, how many times does 3 heads occur? Once out of 8. So the probability of 3 heads is 1 out of 8. Yep, what do you need me for? At least that was cool. Mine actually cracked that much.
That mama next up so stupid. But you ugly.
Faith, I'm filming.
This is the first one, right?
Hello.
What do you have to do? 1, 2, right? That's 1.
Nice job, Ebony.
Pay attention.
You're so nice on your head.
What is the P? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do now?
Probability. So, find the probability, you do favorable outcomes divided by total outcomes. So how many total outcomes do you have?
What are you a Spanish teacher?
How many total outcomes do you have?
You want to
Faith, how many total outcomes do you have?
8.
8. So how many of them are HHH?
1.
1. So it's probability.
Oh.
1 out of
8.
8.
Dang, Mr. Rams, you gotta get like this. He's shining. He can teach. And he speaks Spanish.
Como 26.
But she goes.
Como así.
What the heck?
Hay 2. Exactamente.
First or third, so it doesn't matter.
No, first and third.
It says 4.
It says or on yours?
Yeah.
For that one?
Probability first or third.
Oh, fix that then. So you have first and second, and first or third.
No, it says, it don't even say it for heads. It just says first and second for tails, and then it says first or third for heads.
Right. All right, guys.
Also, it's
We're
order.
not done.
You're not done.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, two left, so about 30 seconds more.
Uno de esos, uno de esos.
Are these gonna be all on eggs?
All right.
Are these gonna be all on eggs? Well, the top ones. First coin is at H. 1, 2, 3, 4.
There you go.
All right, here we go. So, probably the 3 heads. You know, raise your hand. Long. 1/8, good. How many times do we have 3 heads? Once out of 8 attempts. Wonderful. 3 tails, Bruno. Yeah, 1/8. Same thing. 3 tails happens once out of 8, right? Any questions on those 2? Okay, probably heads, tails, heads. Jessica. Probably heads, tails, heads.
1/8.
1/8, because it only happens once, right?
Yeah.
Tails, head, tails, heads. What do you think, Maddie?
1 out of 8.
1 out of 8, good. All these very specific outcomes only happen once. Does that make sense? So there probably is 1 out of 8. All right? Does that make sense? Okay. Probably the first flip is a head. So that means that the first one is heads, right? Well, there's 2 ways I can do this. I can look at my little tree diagram, or I can look at my sample space. Doesn't matter. If I look at my first coin, how many of these are heads? 1 out of 2, 1/2, right? If I look at my sample space, how many have a first coin heads? 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 8. So 1 out of 2 and 4 out of 8, are they the same thing?
Yup.
Yeah, so 1/2. Does that make sense? Same thing with our second flip. I look at my second flip. How many are tails? 2 out of 4. If I look at my sample space, same thing. Second flip is tails. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of 8. 2 out of 4. 4 out of 8. They're both 1/2. Does that make sense? Okay. First and second flip is a tail. 2 ways to get into this. I can look at it this way. First and second flip, the only one where they're both tails is this one, right? There's 1 path out of 4. Or I can look over here and say first and second's a tail. TT, TT, right? 2 out of 8. They're both 1/4. Okay? So it's 2 out of 8, which equals 1/4. Does that make sense?
So that's like
Okay.
that's why you said we gotta reduce.
Yep. First or third is H. Okay? First or third is H. So that means my first or my third is H. Can I count the ones that have both first and third twice? No, I can't. Okay? So to do this one, I would focus more on my sample space than I would on my tree diagram, because I think the tree diagram will get confusing. Okay? Let's count how many first H's we have. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Let's count how many third H's we have. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which ones got double counted? The top 2, didn't they? Right? So we had 4 and 4, but 2 got double counted, so that means that there's, instead of 8, there's only 6. So first and third is H is 6 out of 8, which is how much? 3/4. How many times do we have 1 tail? We're here 3 out of 8, Faith? 1, 2, 3. Right? Can I reduce 3/8? No. About 2 H's. 3 out of 8. Now, my 1 tails was this one, and this one, right? Right? Which outcomes are my 2 H's? Jamira, put your phone away. Which outcomes are my 2 H's? The same 3, right? So, 1 tail and 2 H's describe the exact same events, don't they? Kind of interesting how it works out. And they have the exact same probability. Now, it doesn't always work that way, but it did right here. Where these are the same probability and the exact same event. Not all probabilities have not all events that have the exact same probability are the exact same event. For example, these two are not the exact same event, but they have the same probability. Okay. Any questions? No questions? Is this starting to make more sense? Guys, is it starting to make more sense? A little bit. So, this table. The bottom of your page, probability distributions. Right? So the left column, or the left table. Guys, these are 3 independent tables. I don't know if you realized that yesterday. But these tables do not affect one another. They are independent tables. Okay? This left table, what are all my outcomes? HHH, right? HHT, you know, we need to pay attention. HTH, HTT, THH, THT, TTH, TTT. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. Now, what's the probability of any one of these? What's the probability of any one of these outcomes? 1 out of 8, right? So I'm looking at just my individual outcomes. These probabilities are all 1 out of 8. Does that make sense? Now if I add up all these probabilities, what do I get? I get 8 out of 8, right? Right? What does 8 out of 8 mean? 1, right? Because if we add up all of our probabilities for a given situation, they should all add up to 1. Does that make sense, guys? Next one. Probability distribution for the number of tails flipped. Well, how many tails can I have in any given flip? What's the maximum number? 3. What's the minimum number? 0. Right? And then we have everything in between. So can you guys figure out this probability distribution, please? That means you need to figure out the probabilities of each outcome. 3 tails, 2 tails, 1 tail, and 0 tails. David, take your bell, please. Thank you.
Yeah, but I got a discount because my grandma's on there and it's like, oh, like,
Next time you go in there.
I bought it when I bought my phone.
You still their seat. Take it in and come in. $10 cheaper Best Buy. So they'll match their price. And now it's on our video. Way to go. Way to go, Maddie.
Just 3 T's? I mean, just 2 T's or like?
Just 2 T's. No, not at least. Just 2 T's. Okay. At least it'd be 2 T's or 3 T's. Just 2 T's. Well, you all done? Okay, what's the probability of 3 T's? 1 out of 8. What's the probability of 2 T's? 3 out of 8. What's the probability of 1 T? 3 out of 8. What's the probability of 0 T's? 1 over 8. And if I add all those up, what do we get? We get 8 out of 8, right? There's 1. Does that make sense? Anybody need to see me go through these? 3 T's, right? 2 T's. 1 T. 0 T's. Right? Last one, and we have something new. The probability distribution for 2 heads or 2 tails when flipping 3 coins, right? So that means 2 heads or 2 tails. Right? You guys try this one out?
Just to live.
What? What'd you say? Do those batteries work or no?
Oh, yeah.
Work that thing? Yeah, why do you look like you're hiding something? Look back like you're hiding something.
That little kid, yeah, oh, yeah.
You're looking like a really eating. Like 1.
Now remember, when you make a probability distribution, you need to have all the possible outcomes. Right? So as you're filling in this probability distribution, think if you have all the possible outcomes.
Outcomes of 2 tails.
So, what's the probability of 2 H's? 3 out of 8. What's the probability of 2 T's? 3 out of 8. Now 3 plus 3 makes what? 6. So do I have all my outcomes? No. What am I missing? Yeah. Well, if I have 1 T, isn't that 2? If I have 1 T, isn't that the same as 2 H's?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I have 1 H, isn't it the same as 2 T's?
Yeah.
So what's my only outcome I'm missing? 3 of a kind. Okay. 3 of a kind. What do you guys think it's going to be? What is it? 2 out of 8. Okay, so we reduce it to 1/4. Right. And the reason we know it's 2 is because we had 6 of the 8, right? So how many are left? 2. Okay, does that make sense? Same idea here. If there's a 30% chance of rain, what's the percentage it won't rain? 70%. Right? Same idea. Okay? If I have 6 8s that are doubles, then what's the chance I get triples? 2 out of 8. 3 of a kind. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? Any questions? No? No questions?